121 phase _5 determining secret dualistic grasping and revealing the way of Natura L liberation. Phase 5 determining secret dualistic grasping and revealing the way of natural liberation. Bodhisattva Vajra of pristine awareness proclaimed, Bhagavan, omnipresent Lord and immutable Sovereign, I have been obscured by ignorance, my eyes closed from sight. For eons until now, I have collapsed in the bed of the darkness of ignorance, encased within the shell of sporadically arising patterns of habitual propensities. Without perceiving your face, I have been ensnared by dualistic grasping. Now I have awakened from this bed. By the power of luminous rays of primordial consciousness, I am freed from the shell of habitual propensities, and I behold the face of the teacher. Now seeing with the eyes of wisdom and laughing with mirth, I call out. Thinking that this ground absolute space, which is free of elaboration, comes and goes, ha ha. Thinking that this ground, which has no object, is benefited or harmed by cause and effect, ha ha. Seeking accomplishment elsewhere, while the primordial ground is present as Buddhahood, ha ha. Revolving about in samsara, while I have always been free of transition and change, ha ha. Although samsara and nirvana are none other than my own appearances, perceiving them as apparitions of the apprehender and the apprehended, ha ha. When seeing non-objectivity as great openness, objective Buddhas fall over a precipice, ha ha. When seeing the apprehender and apprehended as identityless, the wheel of samsara is carried away by the wind, ha ha. When the great confidence is found within myself regarding the ground absolute space, the storehouse of accumulated virtues and vices is left behind with no owner, ha ha. When arriving at the pinnacle of the king of yanas, some exhaust themselves with degenerate and inferior yanas, ha ha. Not seeing effortless, self-emergent pleasure and turning their backs on it, some are tormented for eons by the suffering of great hunger and thirst, ha ha. Having fallen from an independent, prosperous kingdom, some still shoulder a great burden of unbearable, intense misery, ha ha. Complete and instantaneous vanishing of dense habitual propensities from beginningless lifetimes, ha ha. Immediate dissolving, without meditation, of the snare of many eons of tenacious dualistic grasping, ha ha. Achieving the eternal state of the Dharmakaya, without even a moment's striving or exertion, ha ha. All the vast and numerous physical worlds and the sentient inhabitants appearing like this, without performing even the slightest bit of virtue, achieving Buddhahood together with me, ha ha. Vajra of pristine awareness asked, Bhagavan, how do sentient beings become deluded? May the omnipresent Lord and immutable Sovereign please explain. The Bhagavan replied, Son of the family, here is how sentient beings become deluded. As analogies, great wisdom is like the eye that reveals the face of the Dharmakaya, and the obscuration by ignorance is like closing that eye so that phenomena disappear. This is adventitious, not in the nature of the ground or of wisdom. The reification of reality is causal ignorance. The confluence of various transient habitual propensities with this cause is confluent ignorance. The thorough establishment of samsara resulting simply from the temporal confluence of these factors is instantaneous ignorance. The obscuration of the ground by ignorance is the substrate, which acts as the basis for all phenomena in samsara. Ignorance of the ground is the obscuring karmic substrate. The assembly of habitual propensities is the substrate of manifold habitual propensities. The dualistic reification of the apprehender and the apprehended is called the substrate that gathers in configurations. At first this acts simply as the cause, then it becomes reified and stable, and finally all the characteristics of the ground withdraw into the inner glow of its depths, like the light of a crystal withdrawing into itself. the inner glow shifts to an outer radiance, encompassing the characteristics of samsara, like the luminosity of sunlight even when the sun is veiled by clouds. There are three types of substrate: the actual substrate, the temporarily luminous substrate, and the substrate that gathers in configurations. Among them, the actual substrate is a mindless vacuity, like the sky at dusk, covered over by darkness. The temporarily luminous substrate makes it possible for thoughts to appear, just as a polished mirror reflects a face. Luminosity manifests in this vacuity like the initial breaking of dawn in the sky. A very subtle, isolated consciousness that grasps at the I arises from this. As it becomes somewhat reified and fortified, the self is established. The appearance of things separate from the self involves the establishment of the outer appearances of the physical world, the inner movements of its sentient inhabitants, and the intervening appearances of the five sensory objects. These are slightly reified by afflictive mentation, resulting in the emergence of an expanded consciousness that enters into its objects, and this constitutes conditioned consciousness of them. The self serves as a basis, like a house, and the six kinds of activating conditioned consciousness arise from that consciousness. Once they have entered the five sense faculties, apprehended objects emerge from this coarse state and are permeated by subtle grasping. Here is how they are composed in samsara. Forms appear to the visual faculty, conditioned consciousness fully apprehends them, and they are called apprehended objects. The grasping of subtle mental consciousness permeates and closely holds them, and this is called the apprehending mind. Smells appear to the olfactory faculty, olfactory conditioned consciousness fully apprehends them, and they are called apprehended objects. Their individual differentiation by subtle mental consciousness is called grasping. Tastes appear to the gustatory faculty, conditioned consciousness fully apprehends them, and they are called apprehended objects. Subtle mental consciousness examines, permeates, and closely holds them, and this is called grasping. Tactile sensations likewise appear to the tactile faculty, tactile conditioned consciousness fully apprehends them, and they are called apprehended objects. Conditioned mental consciousness arises as subtle conceptualizations, it attributes names, differentiates their reference, and reifies them, and this is called the apprehending mind. The coarse separation of the apprehender and the apprehended is like this: the sense of mine emerges from the self-grasping of afflictive mentation, and these objects grasped as mine and self-grasping thoughts are called apprehended objects and prior thoughts. The six kinds of conditioned consciousness are called the apprehending mind and subsequent thoughts. At the subtle level, it is the custom of this jnana to identify conditioned consciousness as the apprehended object and subtle mental consciousness as the apprehending mind. At the coarse level, objects and the thoughts that grasp at objects as a whole come first. Then, at the subtle level, subsequent thoughts examine the nature of objects and differentiate among them. This is the sequence in which delusive appearances and mindsets are generated. To reverse this sequence, when coarse appearances are made dormant, it is called the substrate that gathers in configurations. Here is how this arises: the appearance of the self is apprehended by mentation, the faculties are created by afflictive mentation, conditioned consciousness is created by mentation, mental consciousness creates close holding, and then all joys, sorrows, and neutral feelings are closely held, and this is delusion. O son of the family, the substrate is the formless realm, conditioned consciousness is the form realm, and subtle mental consciousness self emerges as the desire realm. The five vital energies of impure samsara are like this: obscuring vital energy veils the eye of wisdom. Assembling vital energy brings together the defilements of habitual propensities. Differentiating vital energy separates the mind and appearances. Vacillating vital energy causes all kinds of appearances to manifest. Transforming vital energy brings about transitions. There are five obscurations that veil the inner glow of primordial consciousness. The ignorance of the substrate veils the Dharmakaya. The obscuration of afflictive mentation veils the inner glow of spontaneous actualization. The obscuration of mentation veils wisdom. The obscuration of conditioned consciousness veils primordial consciousness. The obscuration of dualistic grasping veils the authentic path. Due to the veiling effects of these obscurations, the 5 radiances that obscure primordial consciousness are as follows. They appear as the indigo radiance of the primordial consciousness of the absolute space of phenomena, the white radiance of mirror-like primordial consciousness, the yellow radiance of the primordial consciousness of equality, the red radiance of discerning primordial consciousness, and the green radiance of the primordial consciousness of accomplishment. The creative expression of the first is delusion, of the second is hatred, of the third is pride, of the fourth is attachment, and of the fifth is envy. The aggregate of form obscures the Buddha family, and its radiance appears as immaterial space. The aggregate of conditioned consciousness obscures the VAJRA family, and its radiance appears as water. The aggregate of feelings obscures the dual family, and its radiance appears as earth. The aggregate of recognition obscures the lotus family, and its radiance appears as fire. The aggregate of compositional factors obscures the karma family, and its radiance appears as air. The appearances of these radiances are mindless. If you think they do have minds, when there is a transition from one life to the next, would the appearing mind become nothing after death? Furthermore, adventitious appearances that arise unpredictably are also mindless. If you think they do have minds, this would mistakenly imply the extreme of cessation involved in birth and death. The appearances to the mind are not actually the mind. If you think they are, the fact that the appearances that follow the mind are not constantly present implies that ultimately, they are simply appearances to the mind. Thus, the withdrawal of all appearances and mindsets into the substrate is called the substrate that gathers in configurations. O son of the family, delusion in the abodes of the 3 realms of samsara from beginningless lifetimes does not entail the slightest movement from this place to another one, and when time passes, there is not even an instant of change. Therefore, son of the family, you are without birth, cessation, or transmigration. Rest in this nature, and you will become enlightened in the absolute space that is indefinable. Then all the assembled disciples, including Bodhisattva Vajra of pristine awareness, uttered this prayer in verse with one voice and one mind. In order to encounter our own face of Samantabhadra, the original Buddha, we bow to all the Buddhas of the 3 times. Non-dual from great absolute space. The primordially free space of pristine awareness, which is unmodified in great ultimate reality. We vow never to be separated from you from now on. By bearing equality in mind, we are liberated in absolute space. Ho! The power of wisdom and primordial consciousness soaring in the vast space of the great expanse of the intent of the Buddhas as the Shugatagarbha is witness to the purity of our prayer. May we truly realize the Dharmakaya, the original ground, absolute space, as the Buddha prior to all Buddhas, unmodified by excellent qualities, unchanged by faults and defilements. Great absolute space is free of the extremes of conceptual elaboration. May we truly realize the great inner depths, devoid of gain and loss, the expanse that is free of signs and words, uniformly pervasive and empty of all partiality and extremes. May we truly realize the Dharmakaya as the equality and purity of samsara and nirvana, the Sambhogakaya as the display of spontaneous actualization, and the Nirmanakaya as the perfection of natural liberation. May we truly realize the non-existence of Buddhas and sentient beings, with no causes, no contributing conditions, no effects, no path, and no primordial consciousness to be achieved. May we truly realize the primordial purification of faults and defilements, expansive primordial consciousness that knows the depths of the ground, and perceives its luminosity, and absolute space which is free of the three times, a beginning, and an end. In that way, without seeking, may we purify the stains that veil the face of the perfect Dharmakaya, and upon purifying our environment in great non-objectivity, may we enter the authentic path. May we be free of veils of ignorance that conceal unborn, non-arising great wisdom. And may we truly realize the great nature of existence of suckness. By the powerful blessings of great wisdom, may we be freed from the obstacles of pitfalls and errors. And without striving, may we enter the authentic path, our original nature, without modification, transformation, training, or progress. May we truly see, with the primordial consciousness that perceives the full range of phenomena, the authentic, supreme path. And may we cross over to original absolute space. Authentic reality is not seen by looking. You encounter your own face by resting without looking. May we enter the authentic path, the profound, essential point of the view without a viewpoint. The Dharmakaya is not achieved through meditation. We are liberated as the Dharmakaya by resting without meditating. May we enter the authentic path, the profound, essential point of meditation without meditating. There is no achievement with conduct, only with inactivity. The great task is achieved naturally, with no conduct. May we enter the authentic path, the profound, essential point of the great conduct with no activity. By cleansing the eye of great wisdom and primordial consciousness of the dust of murky stains, may we directly see ultimate reality, and swiftly achieve the state of a matured Vidyadhara. Having progressed in meditative experiences of pure perception, free of all grasping at phenomena, which are like the 10 analogies of illusion, may we achieve the state of a Vidyadhara with mastery over the life force. By manifestly achieving the autonomy of natural liberation, without reliance on causes or contributing conditions, may pristine awareness reach its consummation in the ground. And may we swiftly achieve the state of a Mahamudra Vidyadhara. May dualistic phenomena be extinguished in great intellect transcending ultimate reality. And by seizing the fortress of acquiring confidence, may we achieve the state of a spontaneously actualized Vidyadhara. May all mental appearances of the three realms of samsara be dissolved in original, great absolute space, like a dream dissolving into the space of awareness. And may we achieve enlightenment as the youthful Vaskaya.